episode of Patriot Palm. Today, you're going to hear from the District 33 Senate seat here in Michigan. It's a community forum hosted by the Montcalm Area Conservation Caucus. It's a relatively new group. This was actually their first event they put on, and I think they did a magnificent job. They had some really good questions that were pre-planned, and then they actually have some questions from the audience. I'm hoping the audio comes through real good for you. There is a spot during when the public can ask questions, and a gentleman asked, a gentleman named Lance asked about the state budget, where he's asking the two representatives who got to vote on it, basically why did they vote on it, and then they asked the other two candidates, if you had a chance to vote on it, how would you have voted and why? Gina Johnson, her answer is kind of, it's definitely one to listen to. I'm a conservative, I'm also a patriot, and I'm a Christian. Some of the things in that budget, I definitely don't agree with. Most of the things actually in that budget I don't agree with. Gina claims to be all those things, and yet she voted for it. Some of that gave money for abortions and such. And but watch the video and hear how Gina responds to the question. And then actually, Mr. Norton goes right after her, and he has a really good thought on it. Three of them all kind of said the same thing, which happens a lot of these forums. But Mr. Norton gives how she explains it. He kind of gives a really good a rhetorical question, so to speak, on it. And so just listen to it, and I do appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. And because all four candidates were there, do me a favor and tell me who you would vote for and why down in the comment section. Thank you. Have an amazing day.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good. Oh, okay. Must be right here by me. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's Michigan State Senate District 33 candidate debate. I am going to ask everybody in the audience to please silence your phones so that we don't have that disruption, please. My name is Rhonda Bishop, and I am a founding member of the Montcalm Area Conservative Caucus, which has organized today's debate. The Montcalm Area Conservative Caucus was established to educate, engage, and empower citizens who share conservative principles and a commitment to constitutional government. Our vision is to strengthen our communities by encouraging civic involvement, promoting informed voter participation, and fostering respectful dialogue on the issues that impact Montcalm County, our region, and the state of Michigan. Please help me thank the many MAC volunteers who have made today's event possible. More information about the caucus is available at the table in the lobby. If you didn't receive one, please visit that table. We appreciate the candidates this morning for taking their time to participate in this discussion and for their willingness to engage directly with voters on the issues that matter most to our communities. An informed electorate is essential to a healthy republic, and opportunities like this help us ensure that citizens have the information they need to make thoughtful decisions at the ballot box. Today's debate is intended to provide voters with an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates. learn about their priorities, and better understand their visions for the future of the 33rd District and the state of Michigan. Our goal is not to endorse or advocate for any candidate, but rather to encourage civic engagement and foster respectful discussion on the issues facing our communities. The upcoming August Republican primary is one of the most important elections our district will face. We must have a Republican. We must keep a Republican in that Senate seat. The decisions made by Republican voters in August will help shape the direction of our state on issues affecting our families, businesses, schools, agriculture, public safety, and economic future. That is why informed participation and thoughtful consideration of each candidate's vision are so important. Today, you will hear from the Republican Senate candidates, but I encourage you to take time to research candidates for all Republican races. In addition to the 33rd District Senate seat in the August primary, Republican voters will choose nominees for governor, the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, and the Michigan House of Representatives for the November general election. For today's debate, we ask everyone, candidates and audience members alike, to maintain a spirit of courtesy and respect throughout the event. While there may be differences in opinion, we share a common commitment to the democratic process and to the future of our district. To ensure this debate remains firmly focused on real-world issues impacting our family and communities, I am pleased to introduce our moderators. We are honored to have former State Representative James Lauer serving as one of the moderators this morning. James is a lifelong resident and member of the 33rd District community. He has served the communities that make up this district as a county commissioner, a village manager, and a state representative. James holds degrees in economics and business from Michigan State University and Grand Valley University. Throughout his career in state and local government, he has chaired many meetings and provided leadership in organizing important conversations affecting our community. In this role today, he will help maintain order and facilitate an informative and respectful exchange of policy and political perspectives during the event. James is joined by moderator Michelle Fickus. Michelle is a relentless advocate for veterans throughout Michigan's 33rd District and an accredited Veteran Service Officer. As a former Region 4 Veterans Engagement Officer with the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, say that 3 times fast, she spent many years cutting through bureaucratic red tape and building strategic, life-changing connections between our local heroes and the benefits they have rightfully earned. Here in our community, she continues to lead on the front lines as the Montcalm Area Military Monday Event Coordinator and the Director of Salute to Veterans Concert Tour across Michigan. She joins us this morning to help ensure our discussion remains focused on the people and the communities our candidates seek to serve. James and Michelle will each moderate a segment of today's debate and will explain the forum and the rules of engagement at the beginning of each segment. Please join me in welcoming both James and Michelle to this role. At this time, please join Pastor Phil Van Dope from the Sheridan First Congregational Church as he opens the event in prayer. Following prayer, please stand as Michelle Jorgensen leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem.
Well, the effort will be to not endorse a candidate. I heartily endorse God. And I appeal to his leadership and his guidance as we seek to help save this state from the godly behavior that is out there. Will you join me? Father God, we thank you for the grace that you have shown us. We thank you for your word that tells us to trust your Son, Jesus Christ, for the redemptive process that he has provided for us, and we lean into the Holy Spirit as we consider the leadership that we are looking to lead now. Bless each and every person as they seek to accept the responsibility that our voting members will put up there. I ask that you will bless them and keep them, that you will watch over them, and may everything that we do be with a discerning heart and mind. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, now and forever. Amen.
Please stand.
Okay, great. Oh, now I'm on. Thank you very much. We're going to start with the introduction of the candidates, and then after that segment, I'll go over, for the benefit of the audience and the candidate, everyone is on the same page. We'll go over that after the introduction. So we'll start with 2 minutes with Commissioner DeBoer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie DeBoer. I am a Christian wife and a homeschool mom. I don't know if I'm on.
You are.
Okay.
Move it a little closer to the.
I'm a Christian wife and a homeschool mom, and as a Christian, I believe we are called to redeem what is broken. And there is brokenness in our state government, and so that is why I am running. I want to help to redeem the brokenness in our state. So I come before you with a wide range of experiences, and I believe my character and my competence make me an excellent candidate. So I'm currently a Kent County Commissioner, and for those who don't understand county government, it's an extension of the state. So we administer state law. So it's imperative that we have good policymakers in our legislature that understand how the county functions. I also have a lot of experience in developing small businesses from scratch. My husband and I have a small construction business, and we've employed over a dozen people over the years. I'm a licensed builder, realtor, and developer. And we've been able to work through red tape, and very frustrating. And I'm very much looking forward to trying to help streamline processes. I've had to deal with it. I've pulled MDOT permits, I've pulled Eagle permits, I've dealt with fraudulent UIA claims. It's very frustrating, and I know a lot of people are feeling that, trying to navigate through all of the bureaucracy. So I hope to bring a lot of that experience to be able to streamline processes to our state government. My corporate experiences are in chemistry, engineering, data analytics. I'm a pretty smart teach, so I'm very good at navigating complexities. I also recently, I've been a government professor at Cornerstone University, and then recently authored my first book. So I have a lot of wide range experiences. In the fall of 2021, I pulled my kids from the public school and founded a homeschool group. It's now a nonprofit, and we are helping parents.
Well, thank you, Commissioner DeBoer. Representative Fox, 2 minutes.
Yep, and thanks to Montcalm Area and the MAC group. Am I done already?
We just reset it. Go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Joseph Fox. And the main thing you need to know about me is I am a Jesus follower. I stand upon the word of God and I wield his sword. I put on the spiritual armor daily. The word says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And the only way we will achieve a blessing from him is if we are a people of integrity. Who you are always trumps what you say you're going to do. I'm not simply a politician who uses God to achieve my own ends, but a person who desires to be used by God to achieve his ends. Who is Fox? I'm a farmhand. I serve on the Agriculture Committee. I fought against Deagle and fought for the Fremont Digester, which sad to say Deagle won. I've been a missionary, a pastor, a Christian school teacher, principal, and most recently the director of the Commission on Aging in Newaygo County. I'm a person who's worked with lots of people and I understand people well. I stand for family. I've been married over 40 years and 4 children, 14 grandchildren. I know what family's all about. I also serve on the Family and Veterans Committee in the House of Representatives. And I also serve on the Education Committee. Just last week, we passed bills to fight for literacy in our state. And in case you don't know, we're 44th in the nation. Our kids need to learn how to read. I also sponsored the Bathroom Privacy Act.
15 seconds.
Think boys and boys, girls and girls. And I have also fought hard for our gun rights. And we need to have our gun rights not be infringed upon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Representative.
Thank you. I'm Gina Johnson, State Representative of the 78th District, based out of Ionia, 4 counties. Experience matters. I've been in the House 4 years now and entered in minority. No fun to be in minority. We have only the House chamber right now, and everything else is run by the Democrats. You know that, and that's where our state is. So when you go to pick a mechanic to fix your car, or a teacher to teach your children, or a doctor to do your surgery, do you pick the experienced one, or do you pick the newbie who just graduated from college? Experience really matters, especially when you're in minority. I've been able to, even in minority, stop the homeschooling regulations that they had plenty of votes to pass, and we crushed it. We hope it stays that way. I helped push back against Eagle so they wouldn't shut down our local small meat processors. They were all at risk if they didn't produce new lagoons and new hygienic standards that made no sense. I pushed back against Michigan Department of Education and said, your perverted sex ed agenda is not appropriate as a statewide mandate against our children. I led that charge. We passed it in the House. I will continue, not begin at the beginning. I will continue to fight against our brutally abusive government. 18 departments gone rogue. And that takes experience, strategy, teamwork. That's why Farm Bureau gave me the sole endorsement. Right to life. All of us sound the same, but who has the experience? Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Tom Norton.
I'm Tom Norton. First thing you need to know about me, I'm a flawed human being like the rest of us. I've made mistakes. I served my country in Afghanistan. I was born on a farm, raised on one. We had 40 head of cattle. I'm the only one that's actually served the country and was raised on a farm. It's a combination. I built businesses, sold it, worked for the largest direct-to-consumer company on the planet, and have been awarded operations or location of the year multiple times, which shows leadership and that I know how to do stuff. On top of that, I've been an American Legion post commander. I founded the West Michigan Veterans Ranch, where we actually worked on spiritually healing veterans, and I can tell you that helped save me as well. And it's very important for us to be able to do that for veterans. I've also actually passed pieces of legislation. Most people don't actually know that. Years ago, if any of you ever had a homeschool group, a church group, an American Legion, a VFW, any organization, the governor came after charitable gaming and almost destroyed it. I organized legions, VFW halls, homeschooling groups, unions, so I actually worked with our opponents. And we overrode the governor and saved charitable gaming. It saved a lot of different organizations. That's where a lot of nonprofit mental health stuff comes from. So I know how to get stuff done through there. I also fought years ago, and the person that sponsored it was State Representative Cindy Gamron, and she ended up getting removed from the House. But we passed a CPS bill. We're on the escalation portion, and then you, if you're ever being investigated, have the right to record the worker. Actually got it passed, and that's without even being elected. So you can start to imagine what I could probably do when I'm elected. There's a lot of different things that I want to actually do. I want to reform Eagle. Eagle is driving up the price, and we are going to sound the same. We need to take the money out of Lansing, hand it to the county commissioners so they can hire staff so you get your permits faster. And we need to increase drilling right here in Michigan. We have 7.32 trillion cubic feet under us, and if we drill it, we can bring down gas, electric, and propane.
Okay, well, thank you, candidates. You saw how that worked. I'll give the 15-second warning because I know when you're up there talking, you don't necessarily see the yellow card. So for the benefit of the audience and just for the candidates, we'll go over the format for segment one. There's 8 questions that the group of us pre-selected that'll be given to all candidates. We'll start with Katie like we did with the introductions, and then it'll rotate from there with each subsequent question. Candidates will have a minute and a half to answer each question. The timer will go off with 15 seconds left. and then the red stick will go up when time's up. So each candidate will have during the debate, so this segment and segment 2, the opportunity to request a 30-second rebuttal. You can almost kind of think of them as like a coach's challenge in football. So once you use them, they're gone. You get 2 each, and those are good for 30 seconds. If you don't end up using them, we'll add that 1 minute, or in the case of if you used one and not the other, 30 seconds, to your time for the closing remarks. So closing remarks are slated to be 1 minute, but if you don't use the rebuttals, then you'll have 2 minutes for closing remarks. That way it's fair and everyone gets an equitable amount of time. So use them wisely. You know, if there's something that, you know, you had a thought after someone went and you want to chime in on that, they don't necessarily have to be a rebuttal, but they could be a follow-up thought that you had. You can use them in that way. So we're going to try to keep it tight and on time, so that way it'll be everyone will be given a fair and equal opportunity. I think that's basically it for segment 1. So we'll get it started off, and then Michelle and I are going to rotate back and forth. So I'll take the first question, and then I'll go to Michelle and back and forth. So this first question, we'll start with Commissioner DeBoer. So we're going to start with local infrastructure. Rural roads are often deprioritized to major urban corridors. What is your specific legislative plan to reform the MDOT funding formula to ensure rural counties like Montcalm receive their fair proportional share of state funding? And so the timer will start when Katie starts talking. Feel free to answer that, Commissioner DeBoer.
Thank you. Okay, so for roads, the state statute needs to be changed for the construction of roads. We need to make it a little bit more capable to be able to build quicker and lower cost. The other thing that we need to do is a match program. So our counties, if they were to put in about 50%, then the state could give, MDOT could give 50%. That will very much increase the amount of roads that can be fixed. Repaired. We need to make sure that we're incentivizing some of that construction and the repairing of our infrastructure. So if counties are able to provide a little bit, then there should be a match program. And I would really like to do that with MDOT and with our infrastructure to make sure that counties are being able to, especially for Montcalm and for, you know, some of the smaller counties as well. They need to be able to have some of that funding for their infrastructure.
Thank you, Rep. Fox. Same question.
Oh, we're doing the same thing?
Yep, it'll all be this. You'll all have the same question. Yep.
Okay, I thought we were getting different questions. So, in relation to roads, we have already done a great deal in the House, and we totally changed the taxing structure on our road dollars. Previously, we had a 6% sales tax on each gallon, on each dollar spent with gas. So if your gas was at $4 per gallon, you were paying 24 cents in sales tax. About 75% of that sales tax went to the school aid fund. The rest of it went to local revenue sharing, and the rest of it was spread out. So those sales tax dollars, quote unquote, disappeared. But what we have now is we have a 20-cent per gallon tax designated to fix the darn roads. And so with that, we, Lord willing, will be able to keep on top of things. And in relation to restructuring the whole formula, I would say that in the meetings that I've been at, and I was at what they call the Paul Bunyan Road Commission Conference held up by Cadillac, there they were very happy with our fixing the darn roads plan that we as Republicans have. So that's my response. Thank you.
Question.
So the House Republicans successfully, like Rep. Fox articulated, did not increase the fees at the pump, but now it all goes to the roads. We increased revenue sharing. Montcalm got $4 million more as a county. Ionia County also about $4 million increased. They were so happy because they had more money to fix their roads. This will continue as we have secured the pot of money that we can use for roads. No more quibbling about it, no more finagling, negotiating, Democrat, Republican, etc. with the governor at the budget time. I'm in favor of increasing revenue sharing even more. And this is a success story with one chamber the House Republicans secured road funding. Now, the other thing that we really wanna do is repeal prevailing wage, because that drives up the cost of hiring those who repair and build the roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Norton.
The quickest way to fix roads, we actually need to remove prevailing wage. That drives up the cost of construction. We also need to change how we build roads. In Germany, roads will last 30 to 40 years. In other places in the country, they last. They use recycled tires. Everybody drive on tires, right? If we use rubberized asphalt, we can increase the lifespan of the road by roughly 75% by mixing it in. Our asphalt's built out of a lower grade, so we have to actually change how we construct it. So as a state, what we need to do is make sure that part of that revenue sharing is extended for long-term solutions for the road. I don't know about you, but a road that lasts 3 times as long but only costs 20% more is probably a little bit cheaper long-term. So going cheaper just means the road falls apart faster. Increasing a little bit, removing prevailing wage, where we can actually maintain and kind of switch the costs back and forth to make sure that it's a long-term solution. There's plenty of communities that have done it. They do it in Germany. They have pretty similar weather in the northern part that we do. So we need to match places that do it intelligently. That's how we have to change the roads. We need to be smarter with your money and my money, because we pay a lot in taxes, don't we?
Okay, we're gonna transition into an economic question. Montcalm residents are currently Montcalm residents are currently facing record high property assessments, as well as paying high taxes in other categories. Will you commit to using your Senate seat to achieve some meaningful form of tax relief? And if so, how? And what impacts would it have on long-term economic stability of the state? Rep. Fox, we'll begin with you.
So this is the question right now, property taxes. And just so you know right up front, I stand for Axe My Tax, which is getting rid of our property taxes. But we're taking steps in the House right now. We have bills that have been passed that are removing the 6 mills, which are focused on education, and also the 1% tax that's focused on when you buy new property. It's going to be a process, because we're going to have to work right now with the Senate to even see those bills get through, and we're going to have to work with the governor. I'm not a big fan of what goes on in the negotiations when it comes to budget, because compromise never seems to come out very good. But we're going to be in it for a while, and maybe one of our other questions will take us to that point where we can talk about where we're at right now in the House as we wrestle with the budget. It's not looking pretty. Right now, the governor and the Senate have proposed $88 billion, and the House has proposed $78 billion. How are we going to bring those together?
Thank you. Rep. Johnson.
That is a clear depiction of the tough times we're in. To get successes, again, with only one chamber in the House, takes strategic, careful negotiating. So, the House Republicans are proposing property tax cuts, as was mentioned, but also a utility rate rollback and a 2-year freeze. Recently, the governor, behind closed doors, made a little agreement with utility companies that they can raise rates again. We said, no way. 2-year freeze, a $1 billion rate rollback in addition to the property tax relief, which is about, on average, a $1,400 savings per household. Now, that's just to start with, but what can you do with an extra $1,400 in a year? That's significant savings. We can't change the inflation rate. There's some federal economic factors that we can influence but not change, but we gotta look at healthcare costs, education choice, that costs families a whole lot of money. We increase per pupil spending, and that's a possibility if we ever get the voucher system through, which we all agree would be a good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Norton.
Everybody likes police and fire, right? So I support the concept of Axe My Tax because it eliminates that property tax, but it cuts $22 billion out of the state budget. Where are you going to find it? Nobody's been able to answer that. So what I'd like to do is get rid of the property taxes, but do a big shift. Michigan is number 7 in tourism. If you drive around these little tiny lakes, you'll see Mississippi, Georgia, Texas. You see places from the other states. They come up here. Michigan is the Florida of the summer. Florida has a sales tax. This is Florida's plan. As again, I like to say, we have 50 Petri dishes. I like to copy them. We need to expand the sales tax to HBC and grocery and eradicate property taxes. If you spend $4,200 a year in HBC and grocery, you'll be paying roughly $240 in sales tax. Now ask yourself this question. What's your property tax bill? It's a lot less, isn't it? It's roughly, it averages out to about a 23% tax cut for everybody across the board. But it maintains, because the state constitution has this in it, revenue sharing. So we can maintain police, fire, things of that nature. Now there's no perfect plan whatsoever. And with that type of tax reform, renters paying above $120,000 a year are going to be paying a little more in taxes. There is no tax plan where everybody's going to win. So that's the best plan that we're going to do, where we can fund it all the way across for everybody. Just for a side note, I actually do have a degree in economics. So it can work, and it does work. And then what it does is it encourages the state to do the right thing with their money.
Thank you.
We know this. So what I would want to see is villages only voted on November ballots. We need to make sure that we are not passing increased millages during a special election, because then the turnout is just the people that want that millage. We also need to remove the set. So the set is the state education tax. That's 6.0 mils, and the House is working on using that for some budget negotiations, and I appreciate that. There's a few other things that we could do. We've got the pop-up tax. That's also in House negotiation right now. And I like that concept. I'm a little bit concerned because assessors right now are incentivized to increase that taxable value as high as they can so that they can get that tax revenue. And we're going to see even more disparity. I like the concept of removing the pop-up tax, as long as we make sure that new construction is also somehow included, because they're going to have an increased assessed values. And some of those unintended consequences have happened with Proposal A as well. We know that in 1994, that increase in disparity. And I think it's essential that as we think through these property tax ideas of lowering, let's make sure we know what's going to happen in those unintended consequences. That's a good policy mind to be able to think through it. Caps on bonds, millages, especially for school bonds, and for other government entities as well. Let's put a cap on some of those bonds so that they're not taking out so much debt as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, candidates. We're going to move to the topic of education. There is a significant debate regarding the state's role in curriculum and administrative oversight in the public, private, and homeschool settings. What is your specific position on ensuring children get the education, skill sets, and protection needed while protecting parental rights and balancing the state's role in administrative oversight? And with this question, we'll start with Representative Johnson.
Thank you. Education is got to be one of my top areas where I'm watching. Education and healthcare. Parents need to be in charge. The government, these are not the government's children. Right now, there's 2 areas where the government, Michigan Department of Ed, and our governor says the school knows better. They keep the parents out. They tell them mandatory health classes. It will have the sex education that the new State Board of Ed has just passed with no legislature involved. I introduced a resolution. We passed it. I introduced, that was a resolution and legislation. We passed it in the House. It's sitting in the Senate. Of course they don't want to pass it. They want to keep control. Sex ed standards that the parents can't even appropriately opt out anymore. There's plenty of money for education. Why are our children not reading? They're distracted with these crazy agendas. They're distracted with stressful situations. Why is there a boy in the girls' bathroom? Why are there litter boxes in some schools? This is crazy. Completely out of control. Funding is not the problem. Parents and State Board of Eds, the school boards, have to come together and kick this garbage out.
Mr. Norton.
Michigan has one of the best states for homeschooling. It shouldn't be touched. Any politician that says they want to reform that portion of it is out of their mind. Homeschooling here gives parents actual freedom. One of the things we have to do, though, is protect them from CPS. That is just a government overreach. There's no trial, jury, execution, or anything. What I want to do is make sure that every parent has due process of law to protect those homeschoolers from the government, period. It's an out-of-control agency. The next thing we need to do is 100% school choice, where you can send your kids to a parochial school, a private school. If you can get your children there, why can't you take them? That's what type of education reform we need. The United States government, in the First Amendment, it says, Congress shall make no law establishing or abridging the freedom of religion. Well, if they were taking your tax dollars away and restricting your money that you paid in for you to educate your child, they are restricting your faith. And the problem we have is there's too many Republicans that don't know how to stand up and fight, communicate, and actually beat them on the public stage. And that's what we need to get in Lansing and in Washington. We need Republicans who are going to fight. For instance, like Kennedy out of Louisiana. Democrats don't like it when he gets on stage, do they?
Commissioner DeBoer.
Thank you. So the reason we don't have school choice currently is because of the Blaine Amendment, which is in our Constitution. So this prohibits any tax funding to going to private schooling, including religious schools. So other states have had success with Blaine amendments because there's been some recent court cases that have really broken down some of the Blaine amendments enforcement. So a voucher program is not appropriate because it would direct funding right to that private school. And education savings accounts is what other states have used to direct some of that funding. The funding goes from the state to the parent, and they have an education savings account. And they can use some of that $10,050 of that allotment that goes to the public schools to be able to create funding for private schooling and for homeschooling. There's also something called scholarship granting organizations, and this recently passed in a big, beautiful bill. And this allows funding a federal tax credit match to states that have scholarship granting organizations, which can be used for private and homeschooling and different ways for alternative education. The other thing we could do is a 529 plan. People are familiar with this. Michigan's is state administered. Well, all states are state administered, and it's called the MESP. If we increase the capability of an MESP to include state income tax exemption for K through 12, and then also homeschooling, which is passed now with 529s federally, that would work too.
Thank you. Rep. Fox.
Yeah, I'm on my second year on the Education Committee for the House, and I spent 25 years in Christian education as a teacher and a principal. And I would say go beyond parental rights to parental obligation. We need, with our parents, to really stress that they are obligated. And we need to remind our schools that they are not parents. We need to remind our schools that they are not mental health institutions. We need to remind our schools that the leftist socialist ideology that's being pushed upon kids is totally wrong. I agree with Katie about the Blaine Amendment. We need to crush it. There's not a lot of stuff I say about this, but I hate the Blaine Amendment, which says no tax dollars to non-public schools. We need to get rid of that. And they've done it in other states. And we need to move toward vouchers. We need to highlight the fact that the kids who are coming out of Christian education, who are coming out of homeschools, they are the kids who are going to be the leaders of the next generation.
Commissioner DeBoer has elected to use one of her follow-ups. Commissioner DeBoer.
So I also don't want to not fund our public schools, and I wanted to make that clear because I would support a parent bill of rights for people that use the public schools, and then I would also want to make sure that we have an opt-in program. So anything that's ideology, different political ideologies, that should be an opt-in program. So any LGBTQ or anything like that, that should not be at all part of core curriculum. If you would like it, then you could have an opt-in and the public school could provide it.
Thank you, Commissioner DeBoer. Rep. Johnson is also going to use a follow-up.
I want to it some hope here. It looks terrible in Michigan with education. I just had a meeting with the National Association of School Chaplains. We are starting to get in Michigan school chaplains. And the decreased depression, anxiety, and suicide rate is evident in the 8 other states that are already doing that. I've also gone to the Department of Justice. 6 of our schools that are rogue are under investigation, federal investigation right now, because I knew our governor wasn't going to help us. I went to the federal department, and you're going to see the results soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are moving into a healthcare question. Healthcare costs remain one of the single largest drivers of both state and federal budgets. Yet Michiganders, particularly our local veterans, are those struggling with acute mental health issues, are not experiencing positive medical outcomes, often forcing them to leave the country entirely for essential care. What can the Senate do differently to resolve this care gap? We'll start with Mr. Norton.
I've dealt with a lot of mental health veterans. Actually, I have a veterans family right now staying in my house because the guy's going through it, doesn't know how to get his benefits because, well, the government takes forever. So the way that we're going to have to reform this is, one, increasing health savings accounts for people who aren't dealing with that and actually have a job, so you have more access to your medication. We also should pass a bill that sits there and makes it so all the medications have a flat price, so there's certain services. So when you walk into a doctor, you know what it costs. So if you pay for it directly, that will help bring it down. The other thing is Michigan needs to pass a 100% choice program. That way other healthcare providers can come in and they start competition to lower your costs. Form co-ops in your churches so that you can do it as well. But to expand it to people who can't afford the benefits, what we need to do is expand Michigan's Medicaid system to a full choice program with supplements where you can purchase into it and get health care if you can't afford it. And actually increase that to small businesses, but allow private companies to participate as well so that you can purchase the insurance to get the mental health that you actually need. But until we get it passed, if you know a veteran that is having mental health issues or a citizen that is having mental health issues, go ahead and give me a call. I have a ton of experience with it. I've done hundreds of cases and have absolutely no problem helping them out.
Thank you. Mr. DeBoer.
Medicaid funding goes through, it's called a PIHP, which is a prepaid inpatient health plan, before it goes to a community mental health. So our community mental health centers are the county's mental health. Again, this is county, state administered, or county administered state government. So Medicaid funding, it goes through a bureaucratic organization, basically, that makes the contracts with the health insurers. And that, if we cut out that middleman, that will save $400 million to community mental health. That funding could be diverted right to community mental health, right to direct care services, instead of being taken by bureaucrats. That's what we need to do to increase mental health for everyone, including our veterans. We also need to divert some of that $400 million to ABA therapy. Our wait lists are out of control and our families are left hanging, and I really believe that will increase the ability of everyone to have a better mental health state. The other thing we've done in Kent County is we have crisis stabilization units. I think that is worthwhile investment. And we've also been able to do more behavioral therapy that's holistic with every healthcare provider at the table helping someone. So there's a lot we can do as long as we understand the system as it is to be able to navigate through it.
Thank you. Rep. Fox.
Okay, just a little bit. I serve on the Families and Veterans Committee. And one thing I have learned as veterans have testified there, that the biggest thing we need to do is listen to them. And I have listened in tears as we've had various things shared there. And one thing that we've done most recently in relation to veterans is we've put forth the idea of it's a pilot program in the hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I'm just used to abbreviating it HBOT. But long story short, there are things that we are doing and things that we can do. And it starts with listening to them, and it starts with pointing them to appropriate situations. I know Michelle does a lot with veterans. I know our county agency in Nuevo County works well with veterans. I end up referring people from other counties to our county because Steve is the guy. And by the way, he lives right across the road from me too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Rep. Johnson.
So for the past 25 years, I've worked in the healthcare arena as a healthcare and patient advocate. Our healthcare system is abominable. It's not socialized, and we don't want that. But we have insurance companies, drug companies, and the government running it instead of you with your provider, you with your doctor. That is, we have so many middlemen driving up the costs, and that's the number one problem. As far as veterans go, I've met with Secretary Collins, again, the federal government. I've asked him and two congressmen, Molinar, our congressman, and Barrett, please consider this, a health care card that all veterans get, and or active duty when they're in the States, and they can use it anywhere. They pick their surgeon, they pick their therapy. They don't have to get special permission from the VA first or drive 2.5 hours to the closest VA center. We have to treat our veterans better than this. I've recently worked with the Ionia County Commissioners. We're starting again, after 40, 50 years of not having this, a veteran service office, and we're gonna restore that back so we can take care of the Ionia veterans like we do in Montcalm. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna switch gears here. We're gonna talk about cameras a little bit. So this question is about cameras, whether they be traffic cameras or cameras people have for security and those kinds of things. There are currently thousands of cameras that photograph and log vehicle movement on Michigan roads. The data is uploaded to the cloud and the technology is helpful for law enforcement. However, there is currently a lack of state regulation, raising concerns among privacy advocates about potential misuse and data falling into the wrong hands. Will you support legislation to put proper guardrails around this technology? Do you believe guardrails are needed? And we'll start with Commissioner DeBoer.
Thank you. Yes, I do believe there are guardrails needed, and I would support legislation. I don't want to inhibit our sheriff's department from being able to solve cases. They currently utilize something called a flock camera, and they are able to see and solve cases far more quickly, utilizing all of the technology available. So I would want to make sure, yes, guardrails are in place to make sure our privacy is protected. I do know that the flock camera system is a very internally regulated. I would support state legislation, but internally they do have a lot of safeguards to make sure that they can't just go and look and see what your cars are or where you're going. They have a lot of guardrails in place currently. So yes, I would support legislation to make sure all privacy is protected across the state, but I do not want to inhibit their ability to solve cases quickly.
Thank you, Representative Fox.
Well, short and simple, cameras make me think of George Orwell in 1984. A sad state of affairs when people can keep track of what we're doing. It reminds me of the whole idea of Big Brother is watching you. I would fight, and I have voted against camera systems already. And more than guardrails, I think we need to rid ourselves of them as much as possible. And I'll take it one step further. Why is it that we're pushing for all these data centers? All this AI? What's that heading toward? But keeping track of us. We don't want a 1984 situation. We're not a socialist country, and we don't want to head down that path. Too many are heading that way already.
Thank you, Rep. Johnson.
The short answer, yes, we need guardrails. So that's why we in the House have voted. I have voted yes to defund some of the misuse of the flock cameras that was implemented by the Democrats. $5 million we cut out of the budget last year. We just recently voted to stop giving points. You know, it's one thing to get a ticket issued by a camera, which I already disagree with. That was implemented before I got to the legislature. You should be able to face your accuser and defend yourself when the crime happened. But you will not be issued points anymore if the Senate passes what we just passed in the House. A ticket is one thing, points is another. We also just passed in the House drone regulations. It's the same idea. You can't just have drones flying everywhere and looking in whoever's windows. We're putting the guardrails on it while we don't have federal regulations that we're waiting for. Michigan's not gonna wait for that. We're gonna put the regulations in place. And if we have to adjust it later to give parity with the federal government, we will do that. Thank you.
And Mr. Norton.
When I was growing up, I was told your freedom stops at the end of your own nose. And I don't support traffic cameras, period, okay? I'm not a big fan of those. Doorbell cameras are great. They help make sure your own private property is protected when somebody walks on it. You have a fundamental right to do that, protect your property. I think we all agree with that, right? But I also support body cameras and police officers. When I was a village president, I used to require them. And I can tell you what, when you sit there and you deal in any type of public life and interaction, you'll have people accuse you of some crazy stuff. And body cameras make it so when you get to face your accuser, they drop charges. It's a beautiful thing. And if you're guilty, guess what? You go to jail. So there's some benefit to them all the way around. I think police should have body cameras. I don't have a big supporter of traffic cameras out there, but I want cameras on your private property to protect yourself. But for instance, I had a gal when I was village president come in. She placed a camera so she could see into the neighbor's backyard after he built a 6-foot fence. And then she came into the village council meeting and went to the news and made up something about me. I can't even remember the story. They were always making up something. And I sat there and I literally had the officer cite her for invading the guy's privacy. Because you had to put a camera over the fence to look in this guy's backyard. And we had already fined the guy because he didn't take care of his property. But that's besides the point. They violated his individual rights. So we have to have checks and balances all the way through. And that's just good for everybody.
Thank you. We're moving into land rights. Let us address local control. If the Republicans gain the majority in the Senate, do you support repealing PA 233 and returning decisions about wind and solar to local governments? Should local government be able to block these developments? We'll start with Rob Fox.
This is a favorite of mine. In our county, we have Garfield Township, where a huge solar company decided they wanted to move in to take out thousands of acres to put up solar panels. And the township said no, plain and simple, no. And the zoning board said no. And then the company went to the Michigan Public Service Commission, which this law has been made for. A set of 3 guys appointed by the governor, unelected bureaucrats. Now they get to somehow control what can happen locally in Newaygo County. So I stand against this law that was passed, the Michigan Public Service Commission taking control of local situations. These decisions need to be made locally and not at the state level.
Thank you. Rob Johnson.
One of the biggest problems when Democrats are in charge is they want centralized power. They want control over the elections, education, farmland, local zoning, housing, etc. They want control over all of it. That's one of the overreaching themes we see, and we're pushing back in every area. Absolutely, we want to repeal that. There's a reason why we have cities, townships, and counties. It's so the state does not mandate the way you live. Why do we live out here and not in one of the big cities? We do it on purpose. We like our space. We like the fresh air. We don't want to hear the hum of everything else around us. And we chose this on purpose. So your voice counts in your local area, and the state should never be taking that away. Whether they claim that there's a better energy process and result, which there isn't. By 2040, we're supposed to be only solar and wind. Ridiculous. It's not only impossible, it's costing us more money to go in that direction. And we all pay for what? An inefficient system.
Mr. DeBoer. I'm sorry. Mr. Sorry.
I didn't know. The founding fathers used to think the country was too big for 3 million people to rule it. To rule 3 million people from the central government. They thought it was too big. So local control 100% of the way. Yes, I think all of us are going to pass a bill if we take control in the Senate and have the governorship with either James, Perry, or Coxon would probably be one of those three. And actually hand that local control back. But the thing is, not only do we have to hand the local control back, we have to have a solution for the energy, not just saying no. So how do we fix that energy? In Michigan, we have a lot of hydro dams. People like to say, well, they're not efficient. They can't do it. We have iron core batteries that they can put on these units now and increase their output by like over 1,000%. That is insane. Talk about tripling the energy output of these small dams again and refitting them and refurbishing them. And if we're going to pay our tax dollars to refurbish them, hand the ownership to the counties. That way the power companies aren't coming in there, taking the money and not touching them again, so they're never a problem. But we have to build iron core batteries on our energy sites. We have brown sites throughout the state that are under 60 acres. A lot of those that don't match for solar or wind anyway, that we can put these iron core batteries to store that energy when we're not using it to release it. On top of that, they have sodium thermal that is growing. That can put out over 12,000% more energy on some of these locations. So not only local control, but building out the energy we need for a future in Michigan.
Thank you. And now, Commissioner DeBoer.
I'm very much for local control. My experience first comes from township and then county, and it's imperative that we understand the townships and the locals and what they're going through. Your local municipality knows their community far better than the state government, and it's pretty darn arrogant for a state government to think an overarching ordinance could be applied to every community. Not okay. So yes, we need to restore our local control, absolutely. I also would like to repeal the tax credits on wind and solar, repeal the sales tax exemption on data centers, and repeal all of that green energy nonsense that we passed when we had the trifecta. Restore local control, wholly support it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. So this next topic is kind of continuing in the same direction. It's about consumers' energy and dams. It's a two-part question. One part's a yes or no. I'll start with the first part. So with the large increase in utility rates in the state of Michigan, having been approved by a small appointed body of unelected officials at the Michigan Public Service Commission, how do you plan to ensure the protection of ratepayers from the skyrocketing utility bills? So that's part one. So part two would be a yes or no. Will you sponsor and vote for legislation that legally blocks utility monopolies from decommissioning or selling the consumers' dams without the explicit voter-approved consent of the affected local communities? And with this one, we're starting with Rep. Johnson.
We need, absolutely, the answer is yes to the second part. We need minimum maintenance standards for these dams that are owned by private companies. We need to maintain the dams. We need the local involved in what's going to happen. If you have lakefront property, riverfront, and they decommission the dam and you don't even know what's going on, you got a new property, right? Devalues your property. Does it put everything else in jeopardy? Wastewater treatment, the sewage, who knows? You absolutely need to be at the table for that conversation. Utility rate rollback, $1 billion. That's what the House is proposing in this budget. This is critical. Again, the governor, in the backdoor dealings with the utility companies, said they can raise the rates again after they just did it. We want a 2-year freeze on it, and we roll them back $1 billion, roughly between the property tax relief and that, about $1,400, $1,500 savings to every family.
Thank you, Mr. Norton.
I think I'd already made it pretty clear in my stance on dams. But anyway, to expand on it, on these dams on there, you gotta realize a lot of these, like Hardy Dam's an earthen dam. It was built during the Great Depression. It was not built well, okay? It was tree stumps, everything thrown in it. And when they built it, it wasn't designed to last this long. So what we have to do is we really have to go out. There's rural development grant money that we can qualify for. This is why I talk about handing the ownership to the community and expanding the dams through energy. Is because if we get that rural development grant money, we can refurbish that dam and Croton. Croton's an international historical marker. It actually set the standard for how electricity was produced. So if we build either iron core batteries or go with sodium thermal systems where the dams cool them, we can output the energy that can power huge chunks of West Michigan and put wind and solar to shame. The $6 billion mistake in mid-Michigan is what I call it, because how many of those spin? They don't. So, and once the ownership's handed over to the community, you don't have to worry about the maintenance anymore. Do any of you in your heart of hearts, if they misuse these dams for 100 years, think that any of the utilities are going to maintain them if we help them fix it? They're not. So if we're going to spend our tax dollars on it, because that's going to end up the solution, and nobody wants to tell the truth, but I'm going to tell you the truth on it, we need to hand that ownership to us and modernize it so we have the energy for us.
Commissioner DeBoer.
Thank you. I believe it was PA 296 in 2008, and that legislation was mostly written by DTE and Consumers Energy, lobbying aside. And what it did is it created a 90% monopoly for DTE and consumers. That is why your energy rates are so high. What we need to do is increase competition to lower your energy rates. So instead of 90% monopoly, it needs to be lower, like an 80% or 70%, so that we can have other options available that are competitive to lower the rates. As far as the dams go, I do support the sale of consumers to Confluence Hydro, but I do, we must require that there's an escrow account because of consumers' deferred maintenance on the dams. That transaction needs to ensure that any maintenance that consumers has delayed needs to be funded for. And we also need to ensure in that agreement that Confluence Hydro operates the dams, that they can't just sell it or get rid of it or tear it down. So I would put a lot of contingencies on that sale to make sure that the people are winning. You guys need to win. And we need to increase competition, lower the energy rates.
And was that a yes or no on the legislation to require voter approval?
Yes.
Thank you. Rep. Fox.
Yes. So I don't forget. So right now I'm the representative where Croton, Hardy, and Hodenpyle dams exist. And I would very much, as Rep. Johnson said, put caps on what these power companies can do. I do know that in the many meetings I've attended, and it's too many meetings I've attended about these dams, that there's a lot of hidden stuff going on, a lot of lack of transparency. And it seems that the people who live on the ponds that are behind the dams are most concerned about keeping the ponds, not about the power. And I am concerned because the feds are sticking their noses into it. That's why consumers want out of it. It's costing them too much just to pay to re-up their licenses. I'm concerned about, as I already said, the lack of transparency, the hidden things that are going on, the non-disclosure agreements, and I'm concerned about green ideology, as I like to call it.
15 seconds.
Okay, I watched the White Cloud Dam disappear. And it's driven by Deagle and green ideology.
So now we're moving into data centers. There's two-part questions. The first part is data centers are a huge topic in Michigan and our country. There are strong opinions on both sides. Interestingly, both President Trump and Governor Whitmer strongly support building data centers pretty much anywhere where they can get them sited. Yet there's a lot of opposition to these at local meetings. How do you balance the demands for the development of this technology with local concerns? Should local governments of the state decide the issue? The second part of this question is As your next senator, will you vote to block further massive tax exemptions to large-scale data centers? We'll start with Mr. Norton.
I don't support tax credits for anything. I think that if it's going to work, just remove the regulations to begin with, because it's picking winners and losers, and I'm tired of it. On data centers, how many of you have a smartphone? The next Cold War is against China, period. They're stretching these data centers. Now, I don't want them in a rural community because it's going to change your water table. I've trained water treatment around the country for years. When you change the water table, you're affected. But what we do have in Michigan, you heard me mention brownfields before. We have 42 brownfields owned by the state with over 80 acres. Brownfields are contaminated sites, mostly in cities, that can't be used for anything else. Why aren't we trying to get the data centers built there on brownfields? They're already in an industrial park. The infrastructure's there. There's usually water right there. Everything's there to build it. And we're sealing contamination with concrete and being able to adjust and use something that's unusable in order to fight China. So it's not enough just to say no, but to have a solution to move it forward and do something so we can win. And I think that's a win-win for everybody, because when it rains right now, those fields are contaminated. Where does the contamination go? Right in the water, right in the ground. But if I seal that with a big giant building with concrete and it rains on top of the building, what happens? It's sealed. So that would be my solution for data centers. And that's why I plan on actually fighting for real solutions that make sense for our families and our communities.
Thank you, Commissioner DeBoer.
You know this, we're a constitutional republic, but that's a form of democracy, and the voice of the people must be at the table. So I support the people in their desire to not have these data centers. What I think we are doing here is we're combining government with AI. And that is a fear of a lot of us. And I understand that. And I understand the response to data centers. I think we need to slow it down. The voice of the people need to be heard. They need to be at the table. They need to understand and see what the actual plans are. We have a transparency problem, obviously, here with a lot of government entities. And so if we were to slow everything down, moratoriums or whatever we need to do to make sure that the voice of the people, so that the people are in agreement or they would like to move forward or not, that needs to occur. I very much support the repeal of the sales tax exemption. So what happened a few years ago is we passed legislation to exempt all sales tax from any construction of data centers, which made Michigan a hot spot and made a lot of these AI companies, technology companies now want to develop here. So yes, I think if we repeal that, that will help slow everything down and make it a less chaotic environment for these data centers as well.
Thank you. Rep. Fox.
Yeah, and I've talked to a few people today who were able to attend the meeting that we had at Flows. Sorry I wasn't able to be there. I was preoccupied with being in the hospital. But it was good to have that, to have those experts here who stand against data centers. And for me, I am very much a local guy, as you could tell. This is an 80-20 issue. This isn't something that the world is jumping onto. And these data center companies are just jumping from township to township to township and throwing spaghetti up against the wall and seeing what sticks and where it sticks. I recently attended Moreland Township in that's Muskegon County, and they put together a good set of policies. And that's what I encourage townships to do, is a good set of policies that will make data centers go try to throw their spaghetti up against another wall. I've signed on to a set of bills put out by Rep. Jennifer Wartz, which is calling for a moratorium on data centers. In fact, we're doing a rally next Tuesday, 5:30 at the Capitol, and you're all invited to come.
Thank you.
And the state should not be mandating how you have your local area, where you live, where you work, where you operate. Full stop. I introduced a bill and it passed in the House. No foreign ownership of our farmland. Also, we see the creep into our farmland. More than anything else, I want to help guard our precious farmland. It's not just our economy, it's our food supply. We easily passed that in the House. The Senate Democrats, who are in charge of the Senate, they're not picking up that bill. China, Syria, Iran, Russia. Imagine they own the farmland and they get to do whatever they want with it. The state should not be dictating wind, solar, data centers. If Detroit wants them, Detroit can have them. If big cities want to do this and they want the tax revenue, that's their choice. But if we don't want them out here, we don't have them.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much. Great job, candidates, sticking to the format. That leaves us with ample time for segment 2, which is a audience participation segment. So I'm going to explain the rules for the audience and for the candidates for this one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and the way the AV system works in here is if you're within the 5 rows closest to the stage, we'll get a lot of feedback on the microphone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand there, and if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll call on you, and you can come over to me, and then we'll be able to ask it of the candidates. If you're not mobile and you can't, get over there, what I'll do is I'll turn the microphone off. I'll come to you. Figure out what the question is and then answer it. We're going to try to keep it organized. Please use respectful language, during this portion. Please be civil like what we've had throughout this debate. I think it's been really good, and that, keeps it to where, it's good for everybody, that we can all hear and we can understand what's going on. And with the questions, we'd really like them to be oriented towards policy and something that all 4 candidates can answer in a perfect setting. So if it's something that's more of a niche thing that's really for one candidate, I'm going to reserve the right to repackage that and try to make it broader. That way all can answer, but that's what we're looking for this segment. So we also have some bonus questions that we've created. If there's not enough audience questions, we'll move into a couple of bonus questions that we have too. We do want to give you guys an opportunity to engage with the candidates. Of course, we had the hour beforehand where you could do more of that one-on-one thing if you had something specific for the candidate, but this is your opportunity. So with that, I'm going to move down here, and if you could raise your hand and then you'll ask your questions. Candidates will have 1 minute under this scenario. So similar rules. So instead of a minute and a half, you'll have 1 minute. You'll get the 15-second warning. I'll have Michelle up here kind of helping regulate that element of it, and I'll kind of work the audience. So with that, I'll come down here, and who has a question? Okay, in the back, I'm going to go right back here. Yes, ma'am.
I'm very much in favor of parents having the choice of whether they want to send their children to public school, private school, or homeschool. I understand the desire to make it affordable for everybody, and so I understand the thought of creating vouchers where the funds would be going wherever the child goes. But I'm very concerned about protecting from government overreach, because wherever government money flows, government is able to input and tell people what they can do then, or tell, if it's a private school, they can, for instance, when the state took control of the public schools and created the State Department of Education, now the schools have to do what the state says. You don't have any local voice about what is being taught in your school. The state mandates, or the federal government mandates what's being taught. If the state monies or federal monies start coming into your private schools or your home school, are they going to be able to mandate what you teach or what you don't teach?
Great question. Thank you. So in a nutshell, how do we safeguard against the government then dictating what happens with that money under a voucher type system? I don't know who's first. Is it Commissioner DeBoer?
We'll start with Mr. Norton.
If you're going to try to safeguard against government, a lot of it is to rehand local control. My grandmother was a school teacher back when they actually went from the small schoolrooms to the big schools, taught in Tri-County till 1987. So I remember her talking about it a lot. The only way we're going to be able to ever safeguard the money and stop government is just sit there and simply put in place, hey, these are the tests that we need. We need math, we need science, we need history, because they don't like to teach that, do they? And we need English. These are the 4 subjects that we're going to test. As long as your school's passing this test, you have full control of the curriculum. That's the only way we're going to do it. And hand as much local control back to the school boards as we possibly can. Test scores have plummeted in the state of Michigan with the more centralized power. So if we hand it back to the local school boards and get the parents more involved, we're going to increase those test scores across the board for everyone.
Commissioner DeBoer.
So when I say an education savings account, part of that allotment that would go to the public schools could go to the parents. And even those parents that utilize the public schools could qualify for an ESA if they have specialized tutoring, if they have other things that they need for education purposes. Special needs child, maybe there's things there for a special needs child as well. So just because you may receive an ESA, hypothetical, does not mean that the government has a check on which homeschool or which private school, or if you're charter or public. So I would not ever sacrifice that. We don't want ESAs and sacrifice our privacy or the government overreaching in our privacy. The other things I would say is the SGOs, the scholarship granting organizations, and a 529, the MESPs. Those government isn't even around it.
Next, Rep. Fox, please.
Yeah. So, as I said before, I've been very involved with Christian education, also very involved with homeschooling education. And I tell these students, be ready. You're the next leaders. And they are, I think, a lot of them taking that very serious. I'm definitely against government overreach. I know homeschoolers do not want tax dollars. They just say no because of the government overreach. But I am a person who would push for the dollars following the student. And I think there would have to be a lot of work done to get it to that point, to keep the government's nose out of the situation. And finally, our schools should be based on achievement, performance, and that includes not just the students, but the teachers and the administration.
Thank you. Rep. Johnson.
So the simple answer is we privatize the whole thing, give the parents large tax exemptions, tax credits per the number of children they have, and they stay in control from the get-go. It's only the parents in charge. We're not anywhere near there right now, unfortunately. But we can look at models in Arizona, Oklahoma, and other states that have done quite a good job of incrementally moving in the direction of the parents being more in charge, more freedom. We have enormous freedom thanks to some very good Christian lawyers who have fought for homeschooling rights, for school choice, for Christian schools. This has been a battle for 70 years, and we've fought and won it. It's amazing that with a very strong teachers union, am I up?
15 seconds.
Very strong teachers union, we still have such freedoms here. That's why we had to push back real hard. Jocelyn Benson thinks like Gretchen Whitmer. If they have their way, they have no schools but the government schools.
Okay, thank you very much. So I saw the person there, and this gentleman was first, so I'm gonna go here, then there, then over here. So sir, please state your name.
My name is Jackson Croy, and my question was, why are you guys so against prevailing wage? Because when you get rid of prevailing wage, the companies are just gonna have to charge more because nobody wants to do crappy work such as iron work or asphalt and not get paid anything for it, especially when they work 100-hour weeks, 16-hour days. No one wants to work for free, so you get rid of prevailing wage and all you're gonna do is make the company charge you guys more. So I don't understand why you'd get rid of prevailing wage. Especially, I think state work should pay better.
Commissioner DeBoer.
Prevailing wage increases the costs for government contracts. So if we were to not have prevailing wage, the private industry would have to compete. And that would decrease the costs. So I know for myself, we have construction business, and I can't run my business and pay prevailing wage because my revenue, I wouldn't make enough. I would have to go out of business. So to be able to make it, those government contracts that have prevailing wage, they're the very large firms, and they are decreasing competition, and they are increasing the costs for government contracts. The reason we're against those is because you're paying for it.
15 seconds.
As a taxpayer, you are paying the cost for all of that. It's also prevailing wage for a specific industry, and not applied to a lot of other industries.
Thank you. Brooke Fox?
Yeah, so I served on the Rural Task Force in Newaygo County. And the Rural Task Force is the group that oversees what roads will be repaired and what have you. We got federal funds that we would sell for 8 cents, well, I should say 80 cents on the dollar. So we would sell them for $800,000 to larger counties who needed at that time to use prevailing wage. So it is a whole lot cheaper to do things yourself, to do things locally. We also have lost right to work. And with all of that, what we've done is we've handed over power to the unions. And the unions are dictating what happens too often. And the unions are, I shouldn't say, who's in the pocket of who. Either the Democrats are in their pocket or they're in the Democrats' pocket. They're both together.
Thank you. Brooke Johnson?
First of all, thank you for the question. Very thoughtful, very good question. Wanting to repeal prevailing wage does not mean we're anti-union. There are unions that do a great job. They don't injure the market or their own industry. There are other unions that have controlled a whole political party, and they have negotiated with the Democrats so that we can't, it's harder for us to lower taxes in order to pay for all the essential services that government is supposed to supply. It doesn't mean that the free market and the private industry, the private world, isn't going to still choose
15 seconds.
a union company. But we have to give more latitude for choice and decreased bidding. The bidding war can come down, the taxes can go down, we can still supply essential services.
Thank you, Mr. Nord.
My granddad was a Teamster. My other grandfather helped found the Iron Workers Union. Teamsters are a good product. Iron workers are a good product. What it says is that we know what we're doing. Teamsters actually had pretty strict restrictions when he was a truck driver on the drivers. So it actually make it so they grab it. So it's, again, not anti-union. But the thing is, I'm going to pick on Sparta for a second, Michigan. There's a $63 million drain project they had to do over in Sparta, Michigan. There's farmers getting a $400,000 and $500,000 bill. Farmers can't afford that. Anybody ever have a problem with the drain commissioner? The reason that is because of prevailing wage. So again, it's not anti-union or anything of that nature, but this culvert, when I was out there knocking doors in that area, I looked at it. It's a mile and a half. $63 million are legitimately going through the backhoe, digging out the drain and putting in 8 culverts. Charging $1,000 an hour. I think that's a little unreasonable. So if we go through and actually remove that portion of the prevailing wage, we get it done for a lot less.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up.
Yes, we've talked about repairing roads for 8 years, and we realize there's a huge size of government spending. My question is on the future of infrastructure, roads, expansion, and safety for the traffic highway. Do you realize that we have a 31 that goes north, we have a 131 that goes north, we have a 127 that goes north, we have a I-75 that goes north. What goes east and west? We have a road through Greenville, Michigan, that's a 2-lane road. Oh, we're going to give a little bit of passing lane between 131 and Greenville, Michigan. That's ridiculous. We need highways to go not through Greenville, not through Carson City, not through Ionia. We need to go bypass. We need future divided highways, and I'd like to know if any of you, as running for state senate, would be in favor of road expansion. Thank you.
Rep Fox.
Yeah, just very simply, and the road I'm most familiar with is 131. And there they did a really good job of bypassing Big Rapids, Cadillac, and they still hopefully have plans to continue. Part of the problem that I understand with these type of roads is it's a lot of federal dollars. It's not simply state dollars that are going into these major interstate highways. So there's not an easy answer to this, and I'll just leave it there.
Rep Johnson.
Okay, so I just met with MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation, and there are some really intelligent people in MDOT, and then there's other people I just really cannot figure out what they're doing. And one of the conversations went like this: okay, we need a traffic light. Do the study. They did the study. We can have the traffic light. Okay, how soon can we have it? In 2 years. People are dying at this intersection.
Right.
Why 2 years? We've got people walking all over the roads. It's one intersection. This is what they said. And one guy worked there 25 years. He's experienced. Other ones are new into MDOT.
15 seconds.
He said, because of the Buy America plan, that's an anti-Trump statement, I'm sure, we have to get all our parts from America. And we can only get them right now from the manufacturing plants in Germany and Switzerland.
Thank you.
Garbage, we're working
Thank
on
you.
this, and we'll keep meeting with them and hold.
Mr. Nord.
I absolutely believe in increasing infrastructure. So I have about 10 sales reps that work for me, 9 installers, not including service guys. And where they're going to drive around, they're restricted by the roads quite a bit. M57 would be phenomenal if we expanded out quite a few. I know most of the farmers out there along there, quite a few of them, and they are already anticipating losing part of it to expand it. But what we have to do is make sure we got turnways. And there's other parts of the state where these roads going east and west, we can add passing lanes and increase them. And I wish we could get those projects done a lot faster, because M57 from here to 131, that's scary, right, folks? That is a scary road. I can tell you, knocking doors down that, putting up signs. I grew up next to it, and I'm like, holy cow, this got a lot worse the last 20 years. And so we need passing lanes. We need things like that nature. And then if you can't get the parts, you know, the Buy American plan from Donald Trump does have loopholes where we can get products and parts and things of that nature. The state house, well, not the state reps, the departments. It's not you guys. Sorry, just
Thank
have
you.
to request it
Thank
through
you.
some paperwork.
Mr. DeLore.
I have pulled a ton of government permits in my professional career. The worst by far has been MDOT, by far, even worse than Eagle. And it is incredibly frustrating working through their bureaucratic process. Yes, I believe in increasing infrastructure, but we first have to fix MDOT, clean house a little bit, and make sure that they're actually streamlining their processes and actually helping developers. I did pull an MDOT permit on M57. Terrible experience, but we need to fix our roads. We need to fix MDOT, and then we can look at increasing infrastructure. I think a lot of the roads that we have still need more maintenance before we expand.
Thank you.
This is Jerry Pennell. Michigan has a lot of oil and gas under our feet. And the state gets a royalty for every ounce of gas and oil that's produced. What can we do to increase production in Michigan? And also, the governor has declared war on pipelines, and which would cause us to have to truck and train more oil and gas, which is dangerous. And I've been told that some of our gas prices are high because we don't have any refineries in Michigan. What can we do to get a refinery in the middle part of the state to serve Michigan?
Okay, we'll start with, Rep. Johnson.
Well, let's work on that. No matter what the problem is, we have experts. We have experts in seats like yours, in our communities, and sometimes in our departments. The 18 departments we currently have, it's been astonishing. Governor Whitmer's picked her cronies, her favorites, her buddies that she owes a nice big fat salary to, and she's plunked them at the top of these departments, and then we go try to have meetings. 5,000 employees that we pay for it aren't there. The other ones only have to come to work 2 days a week. We have got so many things we can fix like that. I'd love to have a deeper conversation with you. I'm sure it sounds like you have some ideas. And then let's get the rest of the experts to the table. This is how we solve anything. This is how I pushed up back against Eagle to save the farmers, the vegetable producers, and the meat processors.
Just make everybody laugh. Drill, baby, drill. Let's start with that right now. Michigan has 7.32 trillion cubic feet of energy below us. That's the number. It is a lot safer, as you said, to drill it right here versus making our natural gas, everything else in liquid form, shipping it from the Middle East and bringing it all the way around. It's not just that. Off the methane off it, we can make our fertilizers for our farm. So on top of a refinery, we need to start pushing things to reduce these regulations from Eagle, from these different organizations. But we're going to need a Republican governor and Senate to do that with your guys' help. Right. And we can then push to build the refineries in Michigan to create the jobs. On top of that, we can manufacture fertilizer right here in the state of Michigan, because that was crushing farmers because we were stopping Iran from getting a nuclear warhead. It was crushing us. Manufacture it here, build it here, drill it here. On top of that, Michigan is one of 7 places on the planet that God blessed our energy to slowly refill over decades. That's why we need to drill right here in Michigan.
Thank you, Commissioner DeBoer.
I would agree that we need to drill ourselves and to increase our supply. The other thing, I support line 5 opening. We need it. It can decrease our energy costs as well. I think, again, there's a lot of things that we can come to the table and we can learn and we can work through it, and that we should be able to find solutions, especially when we bring those experts to the table. I think that we need to make sure that we take back the Senate and we have a Republican governor as well. Honestly, that's the politics that are occurring right now is going to make it that difficult. So we really need to take back our governorship and Senate.
Thank you. Rep. Fox.
Yeah, I would just very simply say we've got to follow the money. The people who are in control of the mineral rights over all of this natural gas are not us. It's the big companies. And, we got to look to where they're in control. We have to look at how they're controlling prices and think DTE, consumers' energy, and then how that money influences our leadership in our state. And I guarantee you, it isn't just Democrats that are being influenced by the big power company. It's Republicans too.
Good morning. I'm Tom Ginster. I want to know what you're going to do to address the recruitment and retention crisis in law enforcement. So you guys have been apprised of this issue. The Sheriff Williams, we passed a road patrol village some time ago here in Montcalm, and I know Sheriff Williams has had quite a challenge in trying to fully fill those slots, both for corrections officers and road patrol officers, and it's a problem common throughout the state. For prosecutors, the prosecutors are funded by the counties, and the defense attorneys are funded by the state under the indigent defense standards. And a defense attorney funded by the state make $140 an hour. We're blessed to have a county commission here in Montcalm that fully supports law enforcement. So we pay more than most for assistant prosecutors. I believe they start at 85,000. So you can do the math when the state's played off the counties. So you could be, if you have a law degree, a cell phone, and a briefcase, you can easily make more than 140,000 a year, 20 hours a week. And that's part of the crisis. It's really hard to recruit and retain assistant prosecutors. It's even more difficult for local agencies to recruit and retain police officers. So you have one agency playing off other agencies, and it used to be a very honorable thing to be in the military or to be associated with law enforcement, but now it's a pejorative. I think the police officer applications are down 40% from 2017. And so I just want to know what your plans are to address this crisis.
Start with Mr. Norton.
So when they first started going after cops, there was a Back to Blue rally in Grand Rapids. I helped pay for that with Johnny Brandt. Press didn't want to cover it unless I took my name off it. So I told Johnny, take my name off it. Johnny and Tommy are both backing me on this. But the biggest thing is for our law enforcement, what we have to do is make them feel supported 100% of the time. The same thing with veterans when they come home and they have mental health problems. Everybody says, we support the vets. We support the vets until you have to deal with the mental health problems. Then all of a sudden, you're a horrible human being. So it's a catch-22. And these cops are going out putting their life on the line. So we have to make sure these guys feel supported 100% of the time. It's a cultural thing. And I think having elected officials that always stand up and fight for them and they know when it's getting tough is going to do it will help with recruitment. The other part is for defense attorneys and prosecutors, what we should be doing in the state is making sure that it's the exact same pay on both sides, period. You look at the county, and if that side's getting paid from the state, you make it up, and then you'll get equal opportunity under the law.
Thank you. Commissioner DeBoer.
It starts with leadership, I believe, especially to change anything cultural. And we have a cultural epidemic right now of not supporting our law enforcement. So I think on a leadership level, us as elected officials need to take the first step to appreciate and to incentivize and make sure that we have good people and we can recruit. I do support diverting funding from pet projects of the state, like from Eagle, to more law enforcement. I also agree MIDC has disproportionately created a situation between the prosecution office and public defender. And so I would support either like a revenue sharing that would go directly to prosecution, just to make sure that we are recruiting good talent as well.
Thank you. Rep. Fox.
Yeah, and we're dealing with this whole picture with problems of culture. No longer is it seen as honorable to do the things that you mentioned. And we plain and simple need to start asking what is right, true, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy. If you think about those things, those will make a difference. We are approximately 800 law enforcement officers short in the state of Michigan. There are already incentives to encourage people to sign up, and part of those incentives even include paying for the training. One problem is there that people will train locally and then they'll jump to another situation. So it kind of goes in circles. But that's what I got to say.
Thank you. Rep. Johnson.
So we do have a cultural problem. We don't respect teachers, law enforcement, parents, grandparents. It's across the board. While we're trying to fix that, churches stay strong, keep preaching. We have to stop electing and appointing judges that don't back up our law enforcement and come against them in a court of law so that they don't have the proper backup. Then the culture says they're the perpetrator of evil when they were defending our safety. Since I've been in the legislature, even in minority, all of the budgets have increased training funds, Michigan State Police funds, and since the Republicans have gotten in office, we've put more money specifically to roads and public safety at the county level, especially related to if they had higher rates of crime and violence and needed more. We will continue to do that. We have to improve the pension plans for the corrections officers, so it has parity with Michigan State Police too.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got two folks here. These will probably be the last two for this segment.
Hi, so I know that a lot of us are, disgruntled with the politics and all the money that's in politics. And, you were mentioning earlier about, the special interests and having influence in our politicians. So my question is, would you support a bill that would limit contributions to campaigns for any politician or issue, ballot issue, props? We saw some terrible props go through just a couple of years. That would limit it to just a person who can vote on the issue or the person. So basically right now that's what, $3,500 per individual. So only individuals could contribute to that campaign. That would eliminate out of state influence, lobbyist interest, corporate interest. So would you support something like that in the state of Michigan? Obviously you can't do anything at the federal level, but Michigan could set a great example.
Commissioner DeBoer.
I would be open to the discussion, and I think that it has good intentions, and I think we have a lot of work to do in that arena. I will say I can already foresee the disproportional allotment of people in a poorer district versus people in a richer district. So I think that we would have to think through how to actually, how that practically would look. Because I think that disparity could even be increased further if we were to limit it just to within the district. The other thing I will say is I would support prohibiting donations from out of state. Proposal 3 that passed, 80% of that funding was from out of state. We have other states that are changing our elections. So I would love to have the discussion, and I think that is a great idea. Practical application of it, we would have to think through.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, in relation to a Senate race, an individual, well, I should say a couple, can give up to $4,900 is the limit right now. And yes, I would support a limiting of campaign contributions. I come from a grassroots perspective, and I've not received for the Senate campaign any dollars from PACs, from other big money givers. And I think it's very important, as you get to know the people, that the money that supports you comes from the people.
Thank you. Rep. Johnson.
I would definitely be open to that conversation. The hard part comes with the enforcement of it and all the loopholes around it. So it would have to be well-written, well-crafted. If you get a team of lawyers together, they'll think of every possibility of working around it. And that's what we have. Every time we make a new election law, then there's all the workarounds, creating a new mess. But it's worth a conversation, and I love where you're going with this. The House Republicans did pass recently to stop foreigners from supplying money that affects our elections. And that's a real big concern, not just out of state, but out of the country money coming in and influencing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Norton.
Well, one law I'd like to pass is that we can sit there and wear NASCAR uniforms so you know who was bought off the fastest. Every single PAC group out there, they actually can donate more money than you. I think it's $10,000 to $50,000 depending on the committee for state senate. They shouldn't have a larger voice. But a lot of us join these organizations so that we have a voice in Lansing, because you and I, we don't have time. We don't have time to be there 24/7. So what I'd like to see happen is a restriction to the dollar amount being the same as the max out of an individual for that race. That way the committees have the exact say there. That way we're not restricting freedom of speech, but equaling the playing field for everyone. So it's beyond a conversation. It's about having ideas. And when somebody says, I want to have the conversation, it's because ideas need to come out. But it's a real thing. If you really want to truly know who's bought off, Just look at their finance reports. That's who you know who is bought off in Lansing and in Washington and everywhere else.
Thank you.
Okay, we're close to time here, so I'm gonna ask the last two here, if we could keep the premise tight, so that way we can get through both of them.
Thank you, Representative. I think the bill number was HR 4437 or something. But anyway, a couple years ago, there was a horrible budget. I think it was the biggest, most bloated, most antichrist, satanic budget in Michigan history, with over $1 billion for windmills and solar panels and $250 million, I think, for gender affirming care. So if you were in the House of Representatives at the time, did you vote for it? Yes, or why did you vote for it? Why didn't you vote for it? If you weren't in the House, like Tom and Katie, would you have voted for it if you were there? Why or why not?
We'll start with Rep. Fox.
Yeah, very simply, I was in the House then. I did not vote for this budget that was mentioned in the question. All kinds of money went to LGBTQ officials getting jobs in the various bureaus. And we've been over the last 2 years trying to wipe out those jobs, many of them ghost jobs. A lot of this money went toward pro-abortion efforts. A lot of this money went to anti-gun efforts. All these were bills shoved down our throats by the Democrats. And this budget is what approved it all. So yes, I voted against it.
Rep. Johnson.
I'm not sure exactly which one, but I think I know where you're going because you asked the same question at every debate. I voted yes on part of it and no on part of it. And I'll tell you, if Benson becomes the governor, it's going to be that times 10 all over again. The Senate is in minority. The House is finally in majority. In minority, you can't stop anything. You know what you do for your district? You keep your word, you scrap for everything they can get so that they can keep their local taxes low. Now, I had 2 communities that said, we are desperate for wastewater treatment plant upgrades. One needed 8 million, the other one needed 11. I got that for them. They did not increase water rates. They did not increase their local taxes, all because I brought that back. Serenity prayer. God, grant me the wisdom to know the difference between what I can change and what I can't change.
Mr. Norton.
Well, I would have voted no. And for government projects, there's something called the Rural Development Grant Fund, Urban Development Grant Funds, Farming Development Grant Funds. You can get up to $35 million for a water treatment plant without voting yes on it. So, I mean, it's that easy. So I would have been a no vote. Joe, thank you very much for voting no on it. I'm 100% certain Katie, I've known Katie for quite a while. I almost guarantee her answer is a no as well.
Commissioner DeBoer.
Yes, I would vote no. There are other ways to bring money back to your district than voting for something that is completely against your values. There are also unintended consequences when you vote against your caucus. We play party politics at Kent County, 12-9 we are currently. If all leadership were voting a certain way and telling me to vote a certain way and I went against that would very much influence my ability to bridge any gaps and to get further initiatives done. So there is no way I would jeopardize that or my own values.
Thank you.
I believe Rep. Johnson wanted to use her 30-second rebuttal.
Thank you. I voted yes on part of it, and I'd do it again and again and again because my district comes first. And when Democrats are in charge, they'll pulverize your red district. Governor Whitmer was line item vetoing everything where Rep. Fox and others voted no. You can have pie in the sky theory, but you don't get money. I'll scrap for my district every day and I'll take the hit so they don't have to.
We have a rebuttal with Mr. Norton.
I'll be real easy. I didn't know you got to vote twice on the same bill. But here's what we need to do if we're gonna really change this stuff. We need line item budgeting, and we need to make sure there's one vote, one bill legislation, so we as voters are no longer getting screwed.
Amen. Okay, we're gonna do one final audience question. We're gonna try to keep the premise tight, and then we're gonna move into the closing comments.
Okay, this has to do with, there's a few people in here that have gray hair like I have. Physician assisted suicide. And that, I guess the Democrats have been really trying to promote that. In Canada, they've had it for 10 years and they've lost as many people to physician assisted suicide as all of World War II. And it starts off real easy. It's going to be rare occasion that this is going to happen, and then it mushrooms out. I'd just like to know what your opinion is on if that comes across to you.
This goes to Representative Johnson.
Yeah, I'm completely against assisted suicide, and one of the things we couldn't stop also when we were in minority was a surrogacy bill package where you can make a business out of hiring moms to carry a baby, and it's okay to do that when it's a private discussion, but when you make a business out of it, you can imagine how many women get used for that. What happens to the babies? There's reports of a woman having 10 different children and they don't keep the babies. They get farmed out, and you can imagine. So assisted suicide it almost passed. If we hadn't walked out in lame duck, it was going to pass. Hate speech, that's another one that's at risk. Whether you're disadvantaged or you have like a Down syndrome baby born, or you're struggling with Great Depression, or you're older. They're looking at all of these as a business for assisted suicide. I'm completely against it.
I'm opposed to assisted suicide, short answer. But the biggest reason about it is a little bit more personal. I'm a flawed human being, we all are. And we sit there and we wish in certain ways that we're gonna pass away in certain ways. And my ex-father-in-law, Kurt, I took care of him for 4 years during and after the divorce. Well, he had cancer. And he sat there and I made him a promise. He wanted to die in his house, in his chair, in his sleep. And I watched a man who is a full-blown alcoholic, verbal to somebody, slowly ask for forgiveness for people, slowly sit there and pick his Bible back up, slowly re-embrace his faith, and was slowly forgiven by the individuals around him. Assisted suicide deprives us of having that redemption. And that's why I'm 100% against it. Because it is permanent, and it takes away the ability for us to sit there and face our demons and ask for that forgiveness.
Yeah, I'm absolutely against physician-assisted suicide as well. God is God, and we are not. He is the only one who determines when end of life is. And all life has value. We're all image bearers of Christ and image bearers of God. And even terminal life has value. Just because someone is dying or has a terminal illness, there is still value in that. And I recently went through a loss of my grandmother, and what the relationship that we had in her last week was precious, and there is value in that. So I'm absolutely against it. That's my stance.
Thank you. Rep. Fox.
Yeah, I stand with Right to Life, which is totally against physician-assisted suicide. But even more, I stand against the euphemisms, the good phrases that sound good that wrap around us, like death with dignity. And even now, and I had this through my mom's process of dying last year, even hospice is taking on the idea of helping people die. It's scary. It reminds me of Hitler, who wanted to get rid of some people and to make some people more equal than others. And as another person with gray hair, I detest that idea totally.
Okay, well, thank you very much, candidates and audience. I appreciate the way that went and the questions and the premise. That was very good. We have two final things. So we're going to have closing remarks from our candidates, and then Rhonda with our team is going to have some closing remarks as well. So the timing will be as follows. Mr. Norton has 90 seconds, DeBoer has 90, Rep. Fox has 120, and Johnson has 60 seconds. That's because of the way they utilize their rebuttals. So starting out for closing comments, 90 seconds, Mr.
His chair. So he died the way he wanted. Anyway, I am running for state rep, obviously. I'm running so we can make Michigan more affordable, so we can drill. Actually, I bring up drilling at every single door. It's phenomenal. Because that is going to unleash the jobs, the energy, and bring down our gas, electric bills, and make things affordable for us. We need to make sure that we get EGLE and the government regulations out of the way so we can build businesses. And we can make sure farms are protected. And that prevailing wage, so drain commissioners aren't evil, can actually sit there and help fix communities as well and bring down the price when they have a project. And we also need to reform that tax code and get rid of those property taxes and actually shift it around so everybody has a tax cut in the state of Michigan, well, 95% being honest, but everybody starts to win. I'm fifth generation in this district. My family's lived here the longest. My daughter actually builds the props here for the different plays. Graduated from Greenville, went to Cedar Springs, too. Transferred my senior year so I could learn business. So Greenville High School made me help pick my economic path. I served in Afghanistan. I am combat infantry, 11 Bravo. And a story that I finally started telling because there's others talking about it. Our unit did help capture the number 2 in Al-Qaeda in 2012. If you want a fighter in Lansing, I'm pretty sure I convinced everybody of that. It's not just experience because I've helped pass stuff too, but it's about making sure we know our community and that we're going to fight for all of our families.
Thank you.
And Commissioner DeBoer, 90 seconds.
This is a primary election. We have very similar values, and it's up to you to decide. I would implore you to use character and competence as your guide. Who has a good character? Who can make sure that they are not doing immoral things or upholding your values? That matters. Who has the competence to be able to write good policy and can think thoroughly through what is going to affect you in your life? So character and competence. And I think of that verse in the Great Commission. I'm sending you like sheep among wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Character and competence. So it's up to you to decide. I have given you an option of me. I believe I uphold good character and good competence. I also have some great experience being able to serve in a unique way where I've dealt through all of the business regulation that has just so much hindered our ability to have a free economy. We need to unleash small business and employers to be able to increase all of our freedom to bring back our economy so that we can restore freedom in our state.
Okay, and Representative Fox will have 2 minutes.
Boy, what do you do with all the time? So I'll take off from what I didn't get to say in my introduction. I'm the only one in this debate who has sponsored 5 constitutional carry bills, and that's in the face of what anti-gun people are trying to do. I am a freedom fighter. I fight as the vice chair of the Election Integrity Committee. Because of our action, we now have Jocelyn Benson in court. I am endorsed by conservatives like Patrick Kolbeck, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, former representatives Dave Ajema, Tom Hooker, and I am quite selective about who endorses me. I stay away from moderate groups from individuals. Thus, I'm proud to be endorsed by Right to Life, Nuevo County Grassroots, and some of the leaders of the No Goshen movement, which I was quite involved with. And I do agree with Mrs. DeBoer that integrity counts. There are lots of people who like to say lots of words, but we need to take a look at their track records. I'm a fighter. I am currently fighting for you. I'm my 4th year in the House. I call myself a Christian patriot. not a politician. I will vote biblically. I cannot be bought. I will always do my best to vote with the one who is the way, the truth, and the life. And just going back to my gray hair, because this is my theme verse. Even when I'm old and gray, do not forsake me, O God, till I declare your power to the next generation, your might to all who are to come. It's the next generation we're fighting for.
Thank you.
And finally, Representative Johnson, 60 seconds.
Thank you. Like I stated in the beginning, experience matters. We unfortunately do not have a setup like Alabama. Michigan is in dire straits. The headwinds are strong against us. And I truly hope we can win the Senate back. I hope you'll be with us and help us on August 5th, whoever gets this seat and the governor's seat and across the board. We need to flip 2 seats back to Republican. Macomb and Oakland, it is entirely possible. I have the Farm Bureau endorsement solely because I have defended and secured farming, farmland, meat processing, vegetable producing, and more for the farmers. And I'm not even a farmer. They see how hard I work. Right to Life has always endorsed me, always will. And the NRA 2 years ago gave me the highest rating. Only 2 of us got it in the state because I introduced campus carry for CPLs and capital carry for CPLs.
Well, thank you very much, candidates and audience, and we're going to go to Rhonda for some final comments.
Thank you, moderators. Thank you, candidates. I do want to note and identify someone very special today. Kimmy Croy, please stand. Kimmy was the hub of the wheel that put this together today, so thank you, Kimmy. As we conclude today's debate, I want to extend my sincere appreciation to our candidates for their willingness to participate and to share their perspectives on the issue facing Michigan's 33rd Senate District. Regardless of the outcome of the election, public service requires sacrifice, commitment, and a willingness to place oneself before the voters, and we thank each of you for doing so today. I also want to thank our moderators, James and Michelle, for helping facilitate a very thoughtful and respectful discussion, and the many other volunteers who made today's event possible. But mostly, I want to thank everyone who attended today. Your presence here demonstrates that civic engagement is alive and well in our communities. A strong republic depends upon you being informed citizens who are willing to listen, ask questions, and participate in the electoral process. As we approach the August Republican primary, I encourage each of you to continue researching the candidates, discussing the issues with your friends and your neighbors, and most importantly, exercising your right to vote. The choices made in this election will have a lasting impact on our district, our state, and future generations. So on behalf of the Montcalm Area Conservative Caucus, thank you for spending part of your day with us. We hope today's discussion has been informative and helpful as you prepare to cast your ballot in August. May God bless you. May God bless the state of Michigan. May God continue to bless the United States of America. Safe travels, and thank you for joining us today.
Hey, what do you think? Was I right about Gina's answer? Hit that like and subscribe button down below.